Let's not waste any time. Grab the snacks, get a drink, and turn off the lights. Enjoy.
Don't worry. Ouch. They're all hiding.
From what?
From me.
Adventure Time's disturbing episode starts off with Starchy being attacked by this deer. Finn and Jake try to capture the deer, but Jake isn't able to hold on to the deer's legs, and Finn ends up getting both of his legs stomped the fuck out and tossed like a whore. Cut to black, we see Finn waking up in a hospital bed. He wonders what happened and where the deer is. He calls out to Dr. Ice Cream, no answer. He removes the blanket and we see he has a full cast on his legs. He then calls out to Jake and Princess Bubblegum.
What the blizz? Come on, people.
Finn heads into town and we see it's a ghost town. There's no one in sight. Finn calls out for people, but again, nothing. As Finn is fooling around, he hears something clatter. He goes to check it out. It's Jake. Finn asks him if he saved everyone. Jake says, I think so. Finn then asks where everyone is. Jake tells him not to worry, they're all hiding. Finn asks from what? From him.
Me.
Because it's his birthday. That Lady Rainicorn is putting together an elaborate surprise party. Finn is confused, but Jake convinces him that everything is all okay. Just pretend that you're unaware to what's going on, and eventually everyone will come out and surprise them. Fast forward, as Finn is collecting wood, he notices he stinks. He wonders how long he's been out, for a day or two. Cut to nighttime, Finn questions Jake's surprise party. Jake tells him not to talk so loud, they might hear him. Finn thinks they should go looking for everyone. This upsets Jake, that Finn will ruin the surprise party. Jake makes Finn promise him to not look around. A few seconds later, we see the deer from the beginning. After Finn complains to it about his legs, the deer scampers off. We then hear whispers and groans coming from the sewers. Finn goes to tell Jake about this, that they should check it out. Jake says no, they'll surprise him when they're ready. Be patient. But Finn is fed up. He's been patient all day. Well, it's revealed that Jake has been waiting 6 months. After this shocking revelation, Finn realizes Jake's mind is gone, so he decides to make a break for the sewer. But Jake chases him and he ends up getting captured. After waking up, we see Jake has really gone way off the deep end. But Finn is able to trick Jake into untying him, and he again makes a run for the sewer. This time he makes it. As Finn explores the sewers, he comes across a truly disturbing sight. The missing candy people, all stuck to the pipes in some weird goop. After Finn is able to return Jake back to his normal self, and another shocking revelation, it wasn't Jake who did this, it was the deer who was the one behind all of this. But Finn and Jake are able to defeat this freaky ass deer and save everyone. Now, this episode is one that has left a big impression on a lot of people, because when I did those episodes that are actually scary, there were quite a few people saying the deer episode is the scariest or freaked them out the most, which I can kinda see how someone would find this to be scary, and it wouldn't be because of the deer. To me, this falls more into either being creepy, unsettling, or disturbing. It's disturbing how easily and quickly this kingdom fell to a deer. Sure, you could say it's pretty goofy, but for 6 months the candy people were held hostage with no one coming to their aid or no one coming to check on them. It makes you wonder what would have happened if it took Finn longer to wake up from his coma. It's off-putting how the kingdom is empty. There's some doors that are left open, but it's not quiet. You can still hear birds chirping. It kind of gives you a false sense that everything is fine. But the most obvious thing that is disturbing about this episode is Jake's behavior and mental state. It's pretty insane how he created the narrative about his birthday and everyone is hiding to surprise him, and it only gets more odd from there, especially when he captures Finn and decides it's time for the party.
Surprise! Happy birthday, Jake! Ow!
Yeah, it's very bizarre. Next episode.
You're here to see that your friend Sean is making the right choice for himself. So check us out. I think you're going to like what you see. Nobody judges who you are or where you come from. Everyone here is the same.
Boy Meets World's disturbing episode, we have Mr. Turner trying to have a heart-to-heart with Sean about his future because he's one of the very few people who care about him, but Sean isn't really taking it seriously. After their conversation, a classmate named Sherry comes up to Sean, saying she overheard his and Mr. Turner's conversation. She paints Mr. Turner as the bad guy, that he was doing a number on Sean. Sean at first is hesitant to agree with her, but she continues to flip the situation that she has at least 100 people who care about her and care enough not to judge her in front of others. Sean agrees that was kinda embarrassing. Sherry invites Sean for a cup of coffee, that she won't judge him, but it's really just a ploy to bring him to the center. Sherry introduces Sean to her friends, and they weirdly already know his name. Sherry tells Sean a little bit about the center, that everyone here could also be his friend. She starts telling him about Mr. Mac, the person who runs the center, that he's this amazing and remarkable human being that she has ever met. He changed her life. Mr. Mac comes over and he also weirdly knows Sean's name. He asks if they are censored. They talk about the center, how it's grown on Sean, that you can't always go with your first instincts, Sean. You got to give people a chance, Sean. Mr. Mac says there's plenty of rooms if he decides to move in. Sean says, what are you, nuts? Sherry reveals that this is where she lives. We all live here. This is when Sean realizes that this is a cult.
We're just a place for people who need love in their lives.
I really have plenty of love. Thanks anyway.
Well, you're judging us, aren't you?
What?
After this, Sean becomes lost in his ways. He lets himself be indoctrinated into this cult.
It's not a cult.
Sean appears to be a lot happier, but anything you say to him and about this cult just comes off as you judging him. Sean has another heart-to-heart with Mr. Turner. Mr. Turner tries to understand where Sean is coming from and tries his best to get through to him because he knows that the center is a place for lost souls who have no beliefs. Mr. Turner encourages Sean that he's one of the most unique individuals he has ever met.
And if you let this place take away who you really are, Sean, then you've made the worst judgment you could make.
The people that are closest to Sean point out bar for bar, word for word, exactly who Mr. Mac truly is and what he's really doing, but it's not enough. Mr. Mac told Sean all the things they would say to him to try to talk him out of his supposed beliefs. Even they can't get through to him. As they're having this dispute, Mr. Feeney gets a phone call. Mr. Turner has been in a motorcycle accident. They head to the hospital, but Sean says he'll meet them there. A few moments later, Sean arrives with Mr. Mac. It doesn't take long for things to get heated. During this moment, Corey, Topanga, and Sean head into Mr. Turner's room. Sean feels overwhelmed. He says he needs Mr. Mac. Topanga calls him out, asking what's the matter with him. Sean tries to run away, but Corey stops him. Corey shows him what a real hug is. This is when you hug someone, when you care about them. After having his moment with Mr. Turner, Sean realizes the errors of his ways. He calls out Mr. Mac's bullshit and tells him he's done with him. And for some reason, this is the last time we see Mr. Turner appear in the show. Now, this episode, I had already written my thoughts on it, but I don't want to spend much time on this. Yes, it's a fucking disturbing. It pisses you off. It's a gaslighting and manipulation 101. I want to point out what Sherry says about laughing.
You have a sense of humor. I like that.
And yet you're not laughing.
Laughter is a mask which denies the reality of a situation and reveals nervousness.
And what's so insane about that is a few moments later, when Sean realizes that this is a cult. In fact, that he realizes it early on. Like, then he laughs. Like, he realizes it, but he still falls for it. Like, brother, man, what the fuck are we doing? It's just a sad and disturbing reality, especially during this era where cults were such a big thing. Next episode.
Don't you know the faster you go, time slows down. Your time stopped for 50 years whilst you're out racing around.
I know that voice.
The Powerpuff Girls disturbing episode, you have the girls who are eagerly excited for school to be over because it's the weekend and they're going on vacation to the Bahamas. After talking about how it's going to be a nice break from the city of Townsville, Buttercup taunts Blossom and Bubbles into racing home. Of course, they can't turn down a challenge. As they are racing, they begin to mess with the space-time continuum, or I guess time. Yeah, they go really fast. And they end up back in Townsville. Townsville. They head inside and Buttercup starts to brag about how she won the race. Her gloating and messing with Bubbles' hair ends up making Bubbles cry out to the professor. They go looking for him in his lab, which we see is looking worse for wear. The camera pans down and we see the professor working on something. It seems like for some reason he's trying to recreate the formula for the Powerpuff Girls. We get a better look at him and he looks disheveled and senile. He thinks the girls are another trick that his mind is playing on him. Since he's not in the right mind state, he scares off the girls. They immediately go back outside, and after catching their breath, they're shocked by the sight in front of them. Townsville is pretty much non-existent. It looks post-apocalyptic. All of the buildings are dilapidated. They get to the mayor's office and go inside to check it out. Surprisingly, there's someone there. It's Miss Bellum, but she's also not in the right mind state. She's distressed and frantic about the Powerpuff Girls never showing up. Why didn't they come? She weeps. Now it's too late. The mayor is gone. After noticing the girls, she also scares them off. As they continue to fly around, they end up at their school. Inside, we see their teacher Miss Keene waving goodbye. Well, in a disturbing reveal, Miss Keene says she stood there waving goodbye as they raced off and vanished for 50 years. After hearing this, him appears. They begin to mock and belittle the girls. The girls beat him up, but it doesn't have any effect on him because him has already won. Him says it's all their fault for leaving. Even everyone in Townsville blames them. Overwhelmed by everything, the girls go screaming out into space. Then they go really fast down to Earth and back to their original time. They learn that they can never leave Townsville, not even for a weekend. Now this episode, not much to say because honestly, straight up, it's very disturbing because when you think about it, it's unsettling how much the people of Townsville are so heavily dependent on the Powerpuff Girls. The fact that these little girls, these little kids can't even go on a short vacation and enjoy a well-deserved break without things going to shit is sad. And then they take all of the blame, like dog, which to me, it just seemed like the townspeople only viewed them as their sacrificial lambs. It comes off as the only sole purpose the Powerpuff Girls served was just to fight and nothing else. It's also kind of disturbing that the people that were recognizable were still alive, but their minds were essentially gone. It makes me wonder why they didn't leave. Was it because they couldn't? Did they have hope? Or was the whole world like this? On to the next.
At the same time, I knew we couldn't stay hidden forever. And one day the modern world would find us and my hometown would change forever.
The X-Files, honestly, this is probably top 5, top 10 most disturbing episodes of all time. Home is a well-known controversial episode. It only aired once on Fox before it was banned for 3 years. Now, I'm not gonna really recap the episode. I think it would be best to experience it for yourself. That's the beauty of the X-Files. You can just jump into a random episode since most of the time it's a monster of the week. But to give a quick rundown of what this episode is about, Mulder and Scully are called over to Home, Pennsylvania for the investigation of a newborn being buried alive. As they're doing their investigation, Mulder notices that they are being watched. A few moments later, the sheriff shows up and introduces himself. His name is Andy Taylor. He tells them a little bit about this small town. Things start to get a little weird when Mulder asks Sheriff Andy about who lives in the house where the people have been watching them. Sheriff Andy is visibly hesitant and uncomfortable to talk about the family, but he tells them that the Peacocks live there. They built a home during the Civil War. Both parents died, so it's only the 3 boys now. They haven't been seen in the last 10 years, so they thought they had died. This is when things start to get disturbing. He tells them everything they grow and raise is all homegrown, even their breeding. And that's all I'm gonna recap. I urge you, if you love horror movies like The Hills Have Eyes, please go watch it. It's season 4, episode 2. Yes, this episode is all about inbreeding. God damn it. That goes back for generations. Yeah, this episode is fucked, but it's so good. I love it. Everyone who worked on this episode was in their bag. From the way it was directed, the sound design, the music, and just how brutal it was, it did not hold any punches. Now, I will say this episode is very, very fucking uncomfortable, disgusting, and disturbing. It's hard to pick one scene that stands out because they're all pretty equal, but the one that's sticking out in my mind right now is the the reveal of what's under the bed and finding out what the peacocks are willing to do for each other, how far they are willing to go for their family, to protect them, their views, their beliefs, and their home. There's also the bread scene that happens a couple moments before this.
I forgot about this part.
So good. Tasty. Fuck, that was so good. Yeah, this episode can be pretty traumatizing. Definitely not for the faint of heart. Now, fun fact, the word home is said 20 times in this episode. They constantly point out the idea of home. You know, after rewatching this episode, I didn't notice this, but I liked how early on they established how safe this town is, and they constantly made it a point of emphasis that they don't need to lock their doors. There was never a need to carry a gun. This was a small hidden town nobody knew about. Everything that occurs in this episode was bound to happen. It was the calm before the storm, and all it took was 2 outsiders to set these chain of events off and unfortunately change the history of this town. I don't know if it's sad or unsettling or maybe both. It was foreshadowed by Sheriff Andy. He knew that eventually this day was gonna come. Obviously Sheriff Andy didn't know exactly what was gonna happen, especially to himself, but he knew change was coming, that this town couldn't be stuck in their old ways anymore. He knew that this world is a dangerous place, that you can't trust everybody, not even your own neighbors who you knew about for years, yet he still didn't take the necessary precautions to lock his door, keep his gun by his bedside, and protect his home.
Andy? What are you doing?
Taking one good last look around before it all changes.
Hope you enjoyed. How do you feel about these episodes? Like and subscribe, share with whoever you think might enjoy my content. Other than that, I'm out.